Hello, everyone. Welcome to my live stream. I hope you've had a wonderful day. I hope you're ready to get started with me. What is my live stream about? It's essentially about money. It's helping you understand money flow, history, current events, business cycles, and economic cycles so that you can make better, more timely decisions in regards to your own financial prosperity and generational wealth. Now, my live stream is very informational, it's very educational. You don't know what I'm talking about each day. For each day, it's different. So I'm really going to push you. I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to ask you questions. Now, I do have a moderator. My moderator plans my talking points. My moderator is sitting right next to me. So if you get muted, please do not take it personally. We're just asking you to focus. Next, if you get blocked, you didn't want to be here anyway, so congratulations, you've met your goals. Now, what I need you to understand is that we're focused on money, objectivity. All right, I have people, hello, welcome. I have people from all over the world watching me, and my live stream is not about me and it's not about you. So if you do any self-promotion or any distracting comments, you already know the outcome. Now, we put a lot of time, energy, and effort into what we're talking about. So all that I ask is that you focus, you answer my questions when I ask, and you tap the screen and give hearts, because that lets me know that you understand what I'm talking about, and I know that we may proceed. Now, if you don't know, some comments were just filtered. Guess what? I have a moderator and I have comments or keywords that are blocked. So I'm not going to tolerate any nonsense. If you cannot focus, good news, you can go. If you are going to focus, welcome here. Please keep your feelings, your religion, your political, your gender, whatever preferences you have, keep it out of my live stream, because we're really focused on educating people, challenging people, and helping people improve the quality of their life. So if this is something that you can get with, you can understand, let's get started. Now, I am starting my live directly with the deep dive. I am talking about Vietnam today. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Vietnam is that it has some income goals, GDP goals, that I think are interesting. It is in regards to money flow, and it has a lot of intriguing information that I believe will be beneficial, informational, and give you a greater perspective than where you are in the world today. Now, next. Hold on, guys. My first block of the day, welcome. So I'm talking about Vietnam. The last portion of my live stream, I'm going to be telling individuals about a 100% high profit digital business, and I will be talking to entrepreneurs or business owners or budget signers about how to save money on their marketing and advertising costs. So again, I have two segments. The first, I'm going to do a deep dive on a topic. I'm talking about Vietnam today. And then the second portion of my live, I will be telling people about a 100% high profit digital business in which could help benefit your prosperity. Next, I'll be talking to business owners or executives, budget signers about how they can save money on their marketing or advertising costs. So if you're ready to get started with me, please tap that screen, because I know I have a couple hundred people in here. Now, Vietnam is aiming for growth. If you don't know much about Vietnam is a very heavily export-based economy. And when Trump actually had Liberation Day, that put a huge dent in the Vietnamese economy and what they were trying to achieve. So I'm going to be going through a little bit of the history of Vietnam, what they're experiencing today, and how they are focusing on their GDP goals, despite having challenges as far as trade talks with the U.S. and regional relationships. So if that's something that interests you, welcome to my live stream. Next, guys, I'm sick. I'm not feeling well. So you're going to have some patience with me. I am not well, but I'm here because I love you guys and I want to share this information. So please have some patience with me today. So Vietnam is still aiming for growth. Their growth targets despite the tariffs. Now, the tariffs that Trump has put into place has caused them to lose $5 billion in their GDP. That is a lot of money for a smaller economy. Now, for some of you think that $5 billion, that's chump change. It's not. because Vietnam is very, very much reliant on exports. Their exports are being impacted and it's causing a severe reduction in household income. Households have lost about $200 in income. That is a lot of money. Now, if you don't know the conversion rate between the dollar and the Vietnamese dong, I'm telling you that's a lot of money that's been lost immediately from the tariffs from between the US and Vietnam. All right. Now, Vietnam's growth target is currently right now at 8%. Now, if you know anything about the GDP formula, the GDP formula is made up of consumption, its interests, its government spending, and its imports and exports. Vietnam typically has a trade surplus because they typically do not allow a lot of imports into their country. Is there anyone in my live stream who would like to guess why Vietnam does not allow a lot of foreign goods to be imported inside their country? How many people are here?
You have 400.
I got 400 people here. You're not tapping. There's no free rides in my live. If you want this information, you want to be enlightened, engaged, you got to tap the screen. Is there anyone in my live stream who would like to take a guess as to why the country of Vietnam does not allow a lot of foreign goods to be imported into their country? Very simple. It doesn't matter if it's right. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. Why do you think Vietnam does not allow a lot of foreign goods to be imported into their country? Please tell me your thoughts. And if you don't know, that's okay too. Why is it that Vietnam is not in favor of to control the people? That's one way to put it, Ellie. Anyone else? Hold on. Miss Melissa, hold on. Miss Melissa, you got to go. Hello and goodbye, Miss Melissa. I told you to keep the disrespect out. My live stream is not here for the disrespect. It's not here for the disrespect, okay? It's not here. Anessa, I'm not sure what you mean also, but I have a feeling you're probably going to get muted. Gino, you're going to get muted. Actually, Gino blocked. Anessa, muted. I'm not in the mood today, guys. If you want to do your shenanigans, you can take this someplace else. Would anyone like to take a guess? Okay? Why else do you think foreign goods are not allowed to the same extent to be imported into the country of Vietnam? Now, this is for objectivity. If you're not here to think, I'm not sure why you're here. I want to repeat, to keep the people employed. Thank you, Papa. Thank you, Papa. This is very critical. When I talk about history, history plays a big component to any country in the world. Part of Vietnam's history is being conquered or occupied by a few different countries. One was China. China has occupied Vietnam for thousands of years. Next, France occupied Vietnam for 67 years. So there's a long, tumultuous, unfortunate history of Vietnam being occupied and mistreated. So when they made a decision not to allow the influence of foreign goods, it's a form of protection. I'm going to repeat this. Some of you may not know this, but the fact that they're not open to having foreign goods come in is because they have a long history of seeing when they open their borders and they allow others in, their country to protect local outputs. That is true too. The country has a history of being occupied and or controlled, and that has not fared well for Vietnam. Next, it's also to protect local outputs. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. But here's the problem. When you look at GDP and you look at the GDP formula, thank you for the gift. Part of the GDP formula, it's made up of consumption, spending, consumer spending. It's made of interest from loans and debt. It's made up of government spending, and it's also made up of imports. The model that Vietnam is using to raise revenue for its economy is a unique approach to generating GDP. which means they're not focused on importing like the US, and they do not want a trade deficit. Typically, Vietnam has a trade surplus, and they have a trade surplus by keeping imports to a minimum. Now, on one hand, you say, okay, how does this work? This could work really well, but the problem is that in Vietnam, the money that is brought in is not fully making its way down to the people. I'm going to repeat this. There is a certain amount of money that each country has in regards to GDP. When you understand economics and you understand the multiplier effect and you understand how money moves through an economy, you see the potential of that $1, $10, how it's going to add to your GDP. What is happening is that the revenue that's being earned and the trade surplus that Vietnam has, that money is not fully making its way down to the people. It's very similar to what I talked to you about as far as Nigeria. I'm going to repeat this. There's some misunderstanding that when a certain amount of money is made, that money is kept kind of locked away from the majority of the population. Now, I don't know if that is a form of protection, if that's a form of mismanagement, but what I will tell you is that it's a misunderstanding of economic policy. Any country who's truly interested in maximizing their GDP, maximizing their revenue, and maximizing the prosperity of their citizens, you must understand that the more money that's being pumped into an economy actually will magnify your GDP. So right now, Vietnam, and it's probably going to continue, relies heavily on exporting to mostly, the US for the West, and it engages with China. That presents a bit of a problem because now the US has tariffs on Vietnam. That's impacting their money flow. Originally, Vietnam had 90% tariffs on goods from the US, which means a lot of goods were not coming into Vietnam from the US. Now that the US have put about 46% tariffs on goods coming from Vietnam, Vietnam has now decided to take their tariffs from 90% to 0%. Now, on one hand, you think, wow, that's a great idea. That's a huge discount. There's a problem with that. When you go from one extreme to the next, how many people are here?
300.
I got 300 people here. You got to tap. Thank you, Nitro. You got to tap. You got to put some work in. I want to work your mind, and I'm going to work your finger. You got to tap. Okay, I need you to focus, and you got to tap. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The problem is that when you have economic policy that swings from one extreme to the next, it actually places a strain on the economy of Vietnam. I'm going to repeat this. When Vietnam's trade policy with the US went from 90% tariffs to 0% tariffs, that is extremes. That extremes will place unnecessary pressure, economic pressure on the economy of Vietnam because they are not set up strategically or infrastructure-wise to handle they're not set up policy-wise, structure-wise for the influx of goods that would come from the United States. What am I trying to tell you? When you have economic policy that changes like the wind, the direction of the wind, that is going to place undue stress and duress financially on the government of Vietnam and the citizens and businesses of Vietnam because it's one extreme to the next. What I'm going to be talking about in further detail is why it's important for a country to have a clear vision. It's no different than a business. You must have a clear vision, long-term vision for the country of Vietnam, for the country of Nigeria, even Saudi Arabia or the US. If you do not have a unified vision of where exactly you are attempting to take Vietnam and the citizens and your economy, you're going to run the risk of being pulled in many different directions without fully maximizing or capitalizing on your true income potential. What I'm trying to tell you is that Vietnam has a lot of income potential. The country is rich with resources and minerals. Last month, Vietnam found 150 mines of critical rare minerals of gold. They found 150 mines that they can basically tap into to create minerals for the rest of the world. 150. And I believe 40 of them was gold. Gold. Just last month. So when I tell you that the country of Vietnam is mineral rich, it is. The problem is that management of it, and the other problem is that it's used to send to the rest of the world. It's my personal opinion that one of the greatest financial economic obstacles that Vietnam is creating for itself is that it is sending off its minerals and goods to the rest of the world without truly capitalizing and using it for its own infrastructure and technological advancement. I'm going to repeat. Vietnam has access to critical rare resources, minerals, that it could use to benefit its economy and technologically throw itself into a future beyond its wildest imagination, which would allow it to get to its GDP goals quicker, easier, and more efficient. The problem is that they do not want outside influence, so they're sending all their goods out to the rest of the world, and that's allowing the rest of the world to get an economic advantage over them time and time again. So on one hand, not having foreign influence, I understand, because there's hundreds of years of suffering. But on the other hand, when you're sitting on such riches, you have to understand that you need to keep some of it for your own country to help with your infrastructure. Because with better infrastructure, you have better consumption, you're spending more money, and the economy moves much smoother, and you're able to grow your GDP easier. So I'm going to repeat this. I understand why it focuses on being export-based only. But the minerals that Vietnam has is going to allow the rest of the world to continue to have an economic advantage over them. And they will be trailing behind and not reaching its full economic growth because the resources that they need for technology, for innovation, for infrastructure are going to the West. It's going to the East. It's going every place else but Vietnam. There's a reason why Vietnam has a long history of being occupied. It's because it has minerals, it has riches. The problem is that it's the same problem with Nigeria. They're not protecting and leveraging the natural riches that the universe has blessed them with. Because they are accustomed to being accommodating to the US and being accommodating to China, they are not able to have a very steadfast approach to their own growth, security, and prosperity. What am I trying to say? When Vietnam encounters some form of aggression, they lose sight of their goal, their purpose, their vision. One of the things that they need to reinforce is their security, their defense of their people, the defense of their borders, the defense of their minerals, the defense of their economic and their government policies. There's too much influence by other countries that are working for their own interests. What I'm going to repeat, there are other countries that are using their power, their money, influence on Vietnam. For example, the U.S. just put 46% tariff on Vietnam, and we knew the impact it was going to have on Vietnam. Now, the U.S. has no interest right now in negotiating trade deals with Vietnam, even though we know that it has heavily impacted the country. So what I'm trying to say is that Vietnam must step outside its comfort zone and start engaging with other nations that have a more respectful and a more collaborative approach to Vietnam's vision, their goal, and their prosperity. Because right now, the U.S. is not handling them with respect that they're due. And they have other influences that are also not handling them with the respect that they deserve and they should have. So what does that mean? It means to be a sovereign nation, you have to put up boundaries. You have to put up boundaries for your borders. You have to put up boundaries for your citizens. You have to put up boundaries for your critical rare minerals. And you have to stand on all 10 toes on your policy, your vision for your country. Vietnam has become comfortable with doing business with one of its neighbors and relying on the U.S. economy. And that has not fared the country well because they're being exploited. When you have an economy that's mostly export based and you're dealing with superpowers who are used to getting their way, it creates for a country like Vietnam to be walking on eggshells. And I'm trying to tell Vietnam that you have so much riches and so many resources that there's no reason why you're walking on eggshells. The next thing I would say is that Vietnam, you must go to the Middle East and look at how Israel is defending itself. The way that you're going to have an 8%, you're going to get your GDP growing by 8%, is that you have to model the behavior, the defense behavior of other small countries that are able to protect itself and generate a massive GDP. The approach that you're taking leaves you exposed, leaves you vulnerable, and you're always scrambling instead of having a proactive approach to your defense and your economic policies. Does that make sense? How many people are here?
You have 230.
I got 230. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. I'm talking about money flow. Now, this money flow that I'm talking about, it's no different whether it's a country, it's a business, or you. You must safeguard your assets. You must understand what you're working with, the hand that you're dealt. If you do not play thank you for the gift. If you do not play your hand well, you find yourself being exploited by the hands of other countries, okay? Now, 2024, there was a U.S. trade surplus of a little of 123 billion. Vietnam had a trade surplus of 123 billion with the U.S. That is a lot of money. But that money has to make it down to the citizens to develop your infrastructure. If you want to attract investments, you have to make your country appealing. Now, it's my understanding that Vietnam may not be as interested in having foreign investment. Cool. But if you're not going to get foreign investment, then it's really critical for you to allow 85 to 95% of the money that's coming through to make it through to your citizens, because it will catapult your country's GDP. Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to repeat. GDP is made up of a simple algebraic equation. And a country can manipulate this formula as it sees fit. Now, Vietnam has made a choice to be an export dominant country. Fine. That means that you have to rely on consumer spending and government spending. If the government's not spending the billions, trillions of dollars that it's bringing into the country, then you understand that why Vietnam is constantly in a developing state. Vietnam will continue to be a developing country unless and until the government pumps most of the money down into the citizens and then get that money back in tax revenue. I'm going to repeat. I said the same thing about Nigeria. Hello, Harvey. Welcome. If you're going to hold on to the money and not put a certain amount of money flow in your economy, you are going to keep your economy in a constant state of financial strife and or development, meaning you're always a developing nation. If you want to get ahead and you want to see the full effects of your trade surplus, you got to invest the money freely. Mismanagement and corruption is interfering with countries having great legacies. I'm going to repeat this. There is a lot of, I don't know if you want to call it patriotism, nationalism, whatever, for countries. If you want your country to realize its full glory, like the British Empire, the Chinese Empire, the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, you must understand that there's a certain level of responsibility and a certain level of investment that you must pump into your economy for your country to reach its most powerful and economic strength. If you're not putting the money there and you're keeping it close to you, I'm telling you, what legacy do you want for your country? Do you want to see greatness? Do you want to see your name written in history books for taking a nation from developing into a first world nation because you did something that was different, which means you invested in Vietnam? Stop allowing others to exploit and basically take out your resources without reinvestment. You have to put back in. If you deplete a nation and you don't put a new influx of cash into it, you are essentially turning your country into a raisin. And when a raisin dries up enough, it's not edible. I'm going to repeat. If you don't put an influx of cash into your own country to make up for the lack of foreign investment, you are essentially putting your country on a path of financial duress because you don't understand how important investment is. If you're going to restrict investment, foreign investment, that means you have to carry 100% of the burden of investing in the economy of Vietnam. I'm going to say this again one last time. If you do not want foreign influence, cool. That means the trade surplus that you have for the country of Vietnam, you must take a good portion of that money and pump it into your economy to make up for the lack of foreign investment that you have coming into Vietnam. There is an economic responsibility to work with the formula for GDP. If you're not taking the money and you're not investing it, you are stunting the greatness of your country. This works for any country, okay? Now, Vietnam has served as a regional manufacturing base for Western companies. Okay, the Prime Minister of Vietnam has admitted that Vietnam is facing more challenges than opportunities. And it noted that the trade war is an opportunity to restructure the economy. Restructuring the economy is not a simple task. You cannot restructure an economy of this size or any size without having a vision. What are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to achieve maximum GDP revenue, then you have to analyze how well have your economic policies worked. You have to do a compare and contrast. If you're doing the same thing and expecting different results, you are setting yourself up for disappointment and economic failure. This is no different than what happens with people. You do the same thing and you expect to get different results. No, if your policies have not benefited you to maximum potential, how much potential revenue loss must you experience before you realize there has to be a slight tweak you have to make to your policies and government spending for you to see the full effect? You cannot be stingy with money. When you slow down the flow of money, when you interfere with the flow of money, money is not going to work for you. I'm going to repeat this. When you interfere with money flow, you halt it, you slow it down, you redirect it. Then you have economies like Nigeria in which you see it's rich and it's poor at the same time. You hear me? Tap the screen if you hear me. You cannot stop the flow of money. And if you want your economy to be reliant on exports with no foreign investment, then it's your job to handle the investment in your economy to reap the full benefits of GDP. So the Vietnam Prime Minister still has an 8% growth target. If you want to reach this 8% growth target, then let me tell you what you need to do. You need to diversify your export partners. You need to stop being influenced by the policies and the pressures of other countries. You also need to come up with a vision, a long-term vision, like what Saudi Arabia did, a vision for your country, and you must follow it and not get distracted. Next, you have to pump millions, billions, and trillions of dollars into your country and watch how the money works its way through your economy, and it will come back to you as taxable income. Putting money into your country doesn't mean you lose the money. It means the money comes back with the new face. I'm going to repeat. Money is received, a trade surplus you have from exports. You take a good portion of that, you pump it into your economy. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, I just put this money into my economy. The money's gone. Money is never gone. Money never disappears. Money just changes. So when you pump the money into the Vietnam economy and it's being used for businesses and jobs and infrastructure and spending, the money will come back to the government or whoever else you wanted to go to through taxable revenue. A lot of taxable revenue. You will actually have more money coming back to you than what you have right now. Guys, there are people making economic decisions and they do not understand economics. I'm going to say this again. There are people making economic decisions for the lives of other people and they do not understand the premise, thank you, Zach, of money flow. You cannot hold on to money. That is why you see rich people invest, because that money will come back to them if they invest in the right way. It comes back to them multifold. It works in a government also. When you hold on to the money and your citizens are living in penury, I'm telling you, your greed, if you want to be greedy, let me tell you how to be greedy. If you really want to be greedy, you pump that money back into the economy and watch it come back to you multifold. If greed is the real reason why there's mismanagement and corruption, I'm telling you, you got to have a more greedy appetite. Pump the money into the economy and see how much your economy thrives. And then you can sit on your high horse because you have unbelievable amounts of money coming back to you and taxable revenue. And you're sitting on your high horse because you're watching your developing country become developed. Great infrastructure. You're seeing your country thrive. That is called having a vision. There's too much short-sightedness when it comes to decision making that's happening. And that is why you see certain countries financially suffering, okay? Now, Vietnam seeks to boost exports to 17 markets that it has free trade agreements with. Now, my question is this. Why have you not been using those 17 free trade agreements to the fullest? Why is it that you found comfort in doing most of your business with 2 to 3 superpowers and you put yourself at risk because you and I both know those superpowers have a tendency to change their mind or change their policies, and Vietnam suffers. I'm going to repeat this again. Vietnam has been heavily reliant on 2 to 3 main countries. That is called setting yourself up for potential problems. If you understand the nature of the country you're dealing with, and you put yourself in a corner where you're solely reliant on 2 to 3 countries, when those 2 to 3 countries change their mind, you lose $5 billion of your GDP. That is why it's critical to diversify. You cannot have your economy solely reliant on 1 to 3 countries because you are being unduly influenced. These countries that you're trading with have their own interests. They're not looking out for your interests. They will never look out for your interests. And as soon as your resources are completely depleted, these countries are going to move someplace else. So what am I saying? I'm saying that Vietnam has to have more self-serving interests that will set them up for longevity and prosperity. there is a level of short-sightedness and appeasing and pleasing 1 to 3 different countries that is not serving them. And it has not served them. How many people are here?
140.
I got 140. They're dropping. People are dropping. Please tap the screen. Okay? You must diversify. You cannot have majority of your income, your trade surplus, reliant on a nation that can, 1 or 2 nations that can change their mind overnight, who have a tendency of putting influencing you in an aggressive way through different forms of negotiation. That is not looking out for your best interests. Okay? You have to understand, countries will tell you what you want to hear until they no longer need you. And then you are sitting there trying to scramble and figure out, how do you restructure your economy? The restructuring of your economy should have already been in the works. Just because you're earning a certain amount of income right now, you never sleep on your economic policy. When you look at countries that you're doing business with, you should already have your economic policy being revised, reiterated. You got to keep working on it. If you sleep at the wheel when it comes to your economy, then when you have a new administration come in and they change their trade policies, you're ass out of luck. You cannot sleep on your economic policies. You cannot sleep on your trade policies. They have to be dynamic because money flow is dynamic. Are you understanding me? It's the same with people who have jobs. You get comfortable. You cannot get comfortable when it comes to money flow. You cannot get comfortable when it comes to money flow. Why? Because there's always a new economic boom. There's always someone else coming into power, and there's always changes. And if you're trying to now change your economic policies just because the U.S. is refusing to be compliant, that is called you're taking a reactive approach instead of a proactive approach. You cannot have reactive economic policies. When you have reactive economic policies, you're always going to fall behind and you're always going to fall short. You have to get someone who is shrewd, who is visionary, and who's cutthroat. You have to have someone who has a pulse on global relations, global trade, and always have their ear to the ground and eyes looking out for possible problems. You knew when Trump was coming into power that he was going to put in tariffs. You want to know why? Because the U.S., Apple was flying in Apple iPhones on airplanes. So if you saw U.S. businesses ramping up on goods because they expected tariffs, why is it that the rest of the world were not preparing for the aftermath of Trump's tariffs? That's a real question. We all knew Trump was coming into power. We also knew that Trump was going to put tariffs in place. So the question I'm asking is, why is it that you thought that just because you had 90% tariffs for years on the U.S., why did you not even consider the fact that you would be having a target on your booty? You should have already had a plan in the making, interim, to safeguard your GDP interests just in case Trump hit you with tariffs. I would have already started boosting my trade with the other countries I had free trade agreements. I wouldn't even wait it. That is the problem, guys. You wait until disaster hits and then you're scrambling. You have to take a proactive, a strategic approach when it comes to money. That is how you don't get blindsided. You don't get swiped. Now, Vietnam in the past has spent a lot of time occupied. I told you, it's been through China, it's been through France, and they've had a lot of internal fighting. I don't know how many countries I talk about where the citizens keep fighting with each other. I don't care what your religion is, your ideals are, your preferences. Why is it that we can't put our personal preferences to the side and work towards a common goal of our betterment? I'm going to repeat this. There seems to be a fundamental issue, no matter what continent you go on, that humans cannot focus on a common goal, come together and achieve that goal. We will continue fighting over the most asinine things, even to our detriment. Why? Feelings. So when I tell you in my live stream, keep your feelings out, keep your preferences out, because I'm trying to train you how to think about things very differently. If you're constantly caught up in your emotions, you are not equipped to ride an economic boom. You are not prepared for money flow. I'm going to tell you that because you're easily distracted. People who are earning money, they do not get distracted easily. Next, there's nothing that I'm saying that will keep you from not tapping that screen. All right? Come on now, guys. You're sitting here. You're listening to me. You got to tap. Because if I was sitting here with a bottle of baby oil, you know damn well you'd be tapping the screen. So if you're not looking for intellectual stimulation, why are you watching my live? I'm going to repeat. If I was sitting here with a bottle of baby oil, you would be tapping that screen. So I'm asking you for the information and knowledge that I'm giving. I'm asking you to tap that screen because the information I'm giving you is more valuable than what you will get watching someone with a goddamn bottle of baby oil licking their lips. Real talk. Real talk. Okay? Knowledge is money. Knowledge is power. And when you're able to make decisions in a timely way, you can safeguard your economic interests, okay? Now, where are we? Currently, right now, Vietnam has problems with their current economic model. The current economic model is either not being utilized in its correct way, meaning money is not making to the citizens and money is not being invested into the economy, or they need to allow foreign investment. I'm going to tell you this. In order for Vietnam to grow at the rate and the percentage that it likes, it has to do one or two things. One, it needs to diversify from these 1 to 3 countries that it's been reliant on. First. Second, it needs to shore up its defenses. Okay? It needs to close up the gaps on its defenses as far as its country, as far as its resources, as far as its money flow. There's too much mismanagement and a lack of oversight that's allowing money to be siphoned off. You have to protect your assets. You also have to stop relying on other countries. You also have to have a vision for Vietnam. Vietnam's vision. I don't care if it's for 2100. I don't care if it's for 2050. People need to sit down and say, what do we see for Vietnam? What do we want for Vietnam? Because Vietnam has been subjected to being ruled by China for over 1,000 years. It was subjected to being ruled by France for over 60 years. At some point in time, Vietnam has to take a step back and say, look, who are we? What do we want to be? How do we want to look? How rich do we want to become? And when are we going to take our rightful place as far as respect on this global economy and stop being moved around by the whims of other countries? You have to make a decision. Next, once you have that decision, you have that vision, then you can come up with economic policies. You cannot have an economic policies, and there's a disconnect from your strategic vision. You will always be set up for sabotage. You will be setting yourself up for failure. You get a vision, you get support, you publicize it, you get the citizens behind it, and then you start restructuring your economic policies. If you try to put the economic policy first and you do not have a unified vision, you're not going to achieve the success that you want because everyone's going to be going in their own different directions. Everyone's going to have their own understanding, their own interpretation, and you will find that you're not going to have the progress that you want. Okay? Their policies are catered towards entertaining other countries. It's towards making money from certain countries. You got to expand. You got to expand. You can be an export-based economy, but you need to be an export-based economy for the world. For the world. Not just for the US, not just for China, for the world. Okay? Next, you got to invest and trust that the money will come back. Vietnamese citizens are hardworking people. You must know that when they start to see this money flow, they will work even harder, because they want greater prosperity, which means the government will earn more money. You got to have faith and trust in your citizens to produce. You can't just rely on them in times of war. You have to rely on them in times of growth. And Vietnam as a country has such a huge growth potential because you have been stunted for hundreds of years. You're like a startup. So if you're like a startup and you know startups have great income profit potential, that's what Vietnam is sitting on. You have a rich, beautiful country that can bring you an unbelievable amount of wealth. But if the money is not making it from the top to the bottom, you're never going to see the true potential of beautiful Vietnam. I'm going to tell you that, okay? Now, when you don't invest in your country, you are stunting intellectual capital. When you refuse to let other countries come in as far as foreign investment, and you don't have an exchange of information and knowledge, that means that you are not bringing the best minds into Vietnam. In order for Vietnam to really get ahead, you have to allow some type of exposure and interaction with other people in the world, because that is going to stimulate the minds, the innovations, and the technology in Vietnam. I understand it makes you uncomfortable. I understand that you have an unfortunate history with dealing with outsiders. But if you want the human capital and you want the minds of your citizens to grow, you have to allow them some level of influx from people from other parts of the world that will challenge their mind and get them thinking in new, revolutionary, out-of-the-box ways that will benefit your economy. Next, foreign investment, consider it. It may help you get a lot further in your GDP goals. Now, technological progress. You can't progress technology-wise unless you're investing in technology and you have the best and the brightest minds. I'm going to repeat. Technology has to do with science. It has to do with math. It has to do with innovations. If you are restricting the ability of the best minds to come together, you are stunting the greatness of your country. And you need diversified education. The reason why some of you are able to sit here and watch me is because, one, you have an interest in information, and some of you are worldwide. I went from 400 to 500 people in my live, and I lost about 350 of them. Why? Because they can't handle it. You want the citizens of Vietnam to be able to handle intellectual stimulation, to be able to have conversations and be able to put ideas out there that they can bring to life. If there's no stimulation, the brains, the minds are not creating new brain neurons. When new neurons are not being created, you're basically asleep as you're awake. If you don't have intellectual stimulation, you got people who are awake and their mind is asleep because there's no challenge. There's no stimulation. There's nothing that's pushing them to become more, to become better. Why? You're going to get muted. Okay? And you need diversification of income streams. All right? Diversification of income streams. That will safeguard you going forward so that when the U.S. decides it wants to put 47% tariffs on you, you're not fazed. Because you know that you've built relations with other parts of the world and you understand how to use the formula, the calculations of GDP. You understand how to manipulate different parts of the GDP formula to safeguard the interests of Vietnam. Now, I am moving over to the second part of my live stream. The second part of my live stream, I'm going to split it up in two. First, I'm going to talk to business owners, and I'm going to talk to executives who are responsible for marketing and advertising. And then the last part of my live stream, I'm going to tell people who are interested in a high profit digital business in which they can work for themselves, have a 2-hour workday, and earn 100% of the revenue. I'm going to tell you how you can earn a 6-figure income from home having a digital business. Now, to the business owners, are you still here? Tap the screen. People who own a business or are responsible for the budget line of marketing and advertising, you and I both know advertising costs a lot of money. You have to allocate a huge amount of money to marketing and advertising. I'm going to say this like I say every single day. That is an old paradigm. If you have the convenience of ordering food and finding love and ordering a car and ordering clothes from digital technologies, I'm telling you there's a more personable, relatable way for you to do marketing and advertising, which does not take you spending billions, millions, hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars on advertising. Ideally, your marketing and advertising budget should be close to zero. It should be close to zero. Why? Because there's better ways to go about it. And if you go about it in a different way, you can actually have multiple types of ideal customers. Right now, because there's a limitation on your budget and your resources, you can only focus on 1 to 2 ideal customers. But if you approached marketing and advertising from a more modern point of view, you would have the ability to have many faces of your brand to cater to many different people and markets and still offer the same product and or service. If you're with me, tap the screen. How many people are here? Oh, sorry. Tap the screen if you hear me. Hear me. I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to push you, and I'm here to get you to look at things differently. That is an old paradigm that was set up off of old business systems in which you have to spend unbelievable amounts of money with a very small conversion rate. If you already know your conversion rate is only going to be a certain percentage, why are you spending that money when you can spend less money and have essentially the same conversion rate? And you can have more of a personable interaction. So if you want to know more about how you can cut your marketing or advertising budget, and this information I'm giving you is not for you, it's for your employees. I want to restate that. This information I have for you, if you have employees, is not for you. It's for your employees. I don't think you have to have a very large marketing department. And I also don't believe that you have to have a marketing department that looks the way you're accustomed to. Next, you also don't have to be spending all that money on agencies. Because if you're actually dealing with humans, human to humans, there are digital technologies that you can leverage to get that human interaction and makes it more relevant to life today. So what do? All you have to do is go to my profile. My website is there. When you go to my website, please ignore the automated system, ignore the digital business. There is information about a program. That program is an education. That information is what you're going to use to allow your employees to get educated, the ones that you choose, on how to approach marketing and advertising differently for your company. I'm going to repeat. When you go to my website, please ignore the done for you digital business, ignore the automated system. There's a program there called Digital Mastery. That Digital Mastery has a plethora of lessons that you will have your employee go through to master the skill sets that will allow you, if it's done right, to cut your marketing budget systematically. Cut. Ideally, I would see you being close to zero, but we'll see how revolutionary you can be. I also don't see you needing to spend money the way you have on agencies. So if you want to know more for that, all you got to do is go to my profile, go to my website, enter your email address, and look for the Digital Mastery Program, and you can see exactly what's going to be learned. Now, if you want to know specifically how to leverage that so you can start cutting your marketing budget and department soon, after you choose a program, you email me, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Now, for people who want to have a high profit, done for you digital business. What if I told you you can earn six-figure income sitting from home? Now, some of you say, huh, what, how? Let me tell you how. Most of you are spending your time earning percentages, earning small amounts of money. And the issue is that you are promoting products in which you earn small amount of money. Instead of promoting a high value, high demand digital product in which you are able to earn hundreds of dollars off of a customer, you are grinding to earn a few dollars or tens of dollars off of many people. If I told you all you needed is one customer and you could earn $600 off of one customer, then does it make sense for you to be earning $5, $10, $20 doing multi-level marketing, affiliate marketing, network marketing? If I told you you can earn 100% of the revenue, 100% of the profits, why are you working for 25%? I'm going to repeat. If you have a way to earn 100% of the revenue, 100% of the profits, why are you working for 25%? If I told you you can have a 2-hour workday because you have a done-for-you digital business that has automated streams of income and high-value digital products, could you imagine that? Now, some of you saying, how? Let me tell you how you earn a six-figure income. Let me tell you how you earn a six-figure income. Let's say you have a high-value digital product. That high-value digital product is worth $600. Okay, $600. One customer buys that $600 digital product from you. You earn 100% of that money. 100% of that money. There's a puzzle. Puzzle gone. You earn 100% of that money, 100% of that profit, which is $600. Now, you're saying, how do I take that to 10,000 six figures? Let me give you. There's 5 billion people online. 5 billion worldwide. Imagine needing only 0.001%. I'm going to repeat, not 1%. 0.001%. Can you imagine only 0.001% of people buying from you? Can you imagine that? 0.001%. If 0.001% of 5 billion people bought from you with a digital product that costs $600, that's a $30 million digital business. I'm going to repeat. $600 times 0.001% times 5 billion. That's a $30 million digital business. That's why it's important to promote high-value products in which you earn 100% of the revenue. Are you here? Tap that screen. You wanted to know, how do you earn six figures from home? Tap the screen. You earn six figures from home when you have high-value digital products, which means you earn hundreds of dollars off of one customer. Now, some of you are earning 25%. You are earning 25% off of $600. That means $150. I'm earning 100%. So you earn 25%, you earn $150. I earn 100%, I earn $600. Why are you working promoting something in which you earn $150 when I'm earning $600? I earn $600 off of a 2-hour workday. You need 6 more hours, which is an 8-hour workday, to earn the same amount of money as me. I'm going to repeat. I work 2 hours a day. I earn 100% of the profits. I earn $600 off of one customer because of a high value, high demand digital product. Now you earn 25%, which means in order for you to earn $600 in a day, you would have to work 8 hours to earn $600, as I worked 2 hours to earn $600. Tell me what makes sense. 25% or 100%? 25% or 100%? Next, some of you are trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I start it up? What if I tell you you don't have to create anything? Everything you need is already created. There's a done-for-you digital business that's already set up for your financial success. What does that mean? It means you can have it up and running within 24 to 72 hours. It's plug and play. Plug and play. Next, you're saying, but how do I earn? What if I told you you're taught how to launch the profit in 7 days? Launch the profit. Launch the profit in 7 days. Now, if you have a low one-time investment in your business and you have no monthly expenses, you see how you get the profit soon. Next, how do you work 2 hours a day? You work 2 hours a day because you have an automated business. When you have an automated business, that business works for you 24/7. You don't have to deal with calls. You don't have to deal with DMs. You don't have to deal with writing emails. You don't have to deal with rejection. You don't have to deal with guesswork, and there's no trial and error. So when I'm telling you there's technologies out there that exist that will set you up to the financial success that you want, it's right here in front of your face. You want to know how to go from zero to $10,000? When you have high value, high demand digital products, you have an automated digital business, you have a 2-hour workday, you earn 100% of the revenue, and you get paid daily. Did you hear me? That means the money goes from the customer to your bank account every day. Daily payouts. How do you beat this? How do you beat this? Can you beat this? 100% of the revenue, 100% of the profits. 2-hour work days, you get paid daily, and all of this is possible off of a high value digital product and a done for you digital business that's already set up. You don't have to create anything. And this is how you earn a 6-figure income from home. Now, some of you want more information. Let me tell you what you do. All you got to do is go to my profile. On my profile, you will see my website. Also, look at my stories. In my stories, on my profile, you will hear testimonials. You will hear testimonials from real people. People who used to work their ass to the bone, making $60,000 a year, quadruple their income. It's real. When you have high value digital products and you earn hundreds of dollars off of one customer, you can easily see how you can bring in $600 a week. $600 a week for a while. Can you imagine that? That's $2,400 of extra income in your bank account in a month off of a 2-hour workday. And then if you want to scale it up, guess what? You scale it up. So guys, this is the end of my live stream. I'm getting ready to go live on my next profile. I'll be talking about Saudi Arabia on my other account. So if you want to continue this journey with me, my other account is Live, Love, Earn. Otherwise, go to my profile, check out my website, watch my stories, get a feel for it. Okay? High value digital products is something mind-blowing. It's high profit. It is beginner friendly. It is simple. It's friendly for you to be anywhere in the world. You can do this anywhere in the world. And you will be taught step by step how to move towards your financial success. Check out my profile. Check out my stories. I encourage you to do so. And if you need more detail, for those of you who are very detail oriented, on my website, you will see lesson. You will see specifically what you will get, what you will receive, what you will learn. Everything is on my website. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your hearts. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you later. Bye.